जो वहां पे सिस्टम लगा है ना उसका लीव ऑडियो कर दो। जो लैपटॉप लगाया उसका लीव ऑडियो कर दो, नहीं तो इको आएगा।
Hello, a very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Amity University Punjab, the Chandigarh chapter of NASI, and the Society for Promotion of Science and Technology in India, I, Vishal Agarwal, welcome you all to the Popular Science Lecture Series. We are extremely delighted to have with us today Professor K.K. Talwar, a renowned cardiologist and a Padma Bhushan awardee, as the speaker for the inaugural lecture. I would now request Professor R.K. Kohli, Vice Chancellor, Amity University Punjab, to kindly welcome Professor Talwar with a sapling. I would now request Professor Talwar, Professor Kohli, Professor Grover, Professor Bhasin, Mr. Dharamveer, and Professor K.R. Dharamveer to kindly water the sapling as a symbol of our growth and prosperity. Thank you, everyone. Uh, Today's lecture by Professor Talwar is a part of series of 12 popular science lectures that will be hosted by Amity University Punjab in collaboration with the Chandigarh chapter of NASI and SPSTI. With the funding support from NASI Prayagraj, this lecture series is Professor Kohli's brainchild. Professor Kohli is an eminent ecologist and a visionary leader. Before taking up the Vice Chancellorship of Amity University Punjab, he was Vice Chancellor of Central University Punjab Bhatinda and DAV University Jalandhar. Professor Kohli is a fellow of all the leading national science academies and was J.C. Bose Fellow for 2 terms. I would now like to request Professor Kohli to formally welcome everyone and tell us more about this lecture series.
Thank you, Dr. Vishal. Good afternoon to you all. It is a matter of great pride and privilege for me that on behalf of Amity University of Punjab and on behalf of SPSTI, Society for Promotion of Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Chandigarh chapter of National Academy of Sciences, Prayagraj, we are holding this lecture series. The initiation of this lecture series is from a very stalwart clinical scientist, cardiologist, known name not only in India, the world over, Professor K.K. Talwar. For me, it is a matter of pride and again privilege to extend on behalf of Amity University, on behalf of SPSTI, and on behalf of Chandigarh chapter of NASI, a very warm welcome to you, sir. As a matter of incident, Professor Talwar is a government nominee of the government of Punjab to the governing body of Amity University of Punjab. Governing body is the highest body that takes decisions on behalf of the university, and he is nominated to that body. And we are really thankful to him that he could step his foot on this campus. Today, we are also grateful and happy that the president of SPSTI, I think I need not give the full name, SPSTI is its short term. The president of SPSTI, Dharamveer ji, vice president of SPSTI, Dr. Arun Grover, and the general secretary of SPSTI, Madam Kea Dharamveer. They are also with us. With us is also the secretary of NASI, Professor K.K. Basin. For the information of the students, there are 3 national academies in sciences, other than, of course, Medical Sciences, Academy of Medical Sciences, and Academy of Engineering Sciences. Engineering. Each of these academies, they have constituted local chapters so that from the head office, the things cannot be translated, things cannot be transmitted. So the Chandigarh chapter of NASI is here in Chandigarh. This academy, National Academy of Sciences, India, Allahabad, which is now called Prayagraj, it has 21 chapters. Among these 21 chapters, Chandigarh is one of those chapters. It caters to Haryana, Punjab, Himachal, and Chandigarh. This year, the Chandigarh, the NASI, they started with some projects. They had asked the all local chapters to propose some activities under the banner of NASI. So to our university or to our Chandigarh chapter, they sanctioned 2 projects. One of these 2 projects is this popular science lecture series. So we are supposed to organize 12 such good lectures from good scientists, and we invite only the fellows of academies. So we all are very fortunate that the initiation is being done by Professor Talwar. The second project is sensitization workshops, especially in the rural areas. This is being taken up by Madam Shivali Dingla, Professor Daisy from Punjab University, and Dr. Bindu from our university. The science lecture series, the leadership is with Professor Arun Groverji. He is the PI of that project, and helping as a co-PI is Dr. Tandon and Dr. Vishal. This sensitization workshop is on 4 aspects. This is to be taken up in the rural areas. We got the funds very late. Otherwise, we could have started it from April. So I am pretty sure that Dr. Shivali will take up all these components. These components include online payment fraud awareness program for the rural people. Second is sensitization program on material and child health problems. Third is mentoring for creating an urban market to support villagers to sell handmade products, non-farming source of earning. This is also very interesting. All these 4 are interesting aspects. And of course, the 4th one is expert talk on menstrual health hygiene. On behalf of the organizers of this program, and on my own behalf, on behalf of SPSTI Chandigarh chapter, I heartily again welcome you all to this lecture series, initiation of this lecture series, and to the first lecture from Professor Talwar. With these words, I wish you all the best of time, best of health, happiness, and progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Kohli. We have with us Professor Arun Grover, an eminent physicist and a former Vice Chancellor of Punjab University Chandigarh, where he served for 2 terms. Professor Grover is Vice President of SPSTI and is a Fellow of all leading national science academies. Professor Grover is the principal investigator on the NASI grant, which is providing funding support for this popular science lecture series. I would like to now request Professor Grover to kindly say a few words of inspiration. Professor Grover.
Good afternoon, all. Professor Talwar, Professor Kohli, Kia and Dharamveer ji, Professor Paseen, staff and students of Amity University. I am indeed very happy to have another occasion to be here on this stage in this hall. I have addressed you in the past as well, so I'll be very brief. The predecessor of Professor Kohli, namely Professor IBS Pasi, who was the president of the Chandigarh chapter of NASI and also the vice president of Society for Promotion of Science and Technology in India, and also one of the founder members of SPSTI. He called me in the year 2019 when I had completed my term as a VC. And he said, I'm going to constitute a small committee and make you a chairman so that you can continue with the public engagement activities which had been commenced on behalf of Chandigarh institutions in the form of Chandigarh Region Innovation and Knowledge Cluster. So the idea of Chandigarh, that cluster, actually, I'm very happy that Professor Talwar is here. He had tried to get all the Chandigarh institutions together to create such a cluster. So all the background work that he had done, there were articles written by him and other citizens of the city, that the city needs to have a platform where all institutions can be brought together. So it was my good luck that this name got questioned and we got these things going. So Professor Pasi entered into an MOU between NASI and SPSTI that we will do these activities of CRICSI in a civic platform. So that is how it started to happen. Then in the year 2020, when the pandemic set in, he handed over the vice presidentship of the SPSTI to me. Then during the pandemic, online lectures became a norm, and we made lectures in an online form. And in the very first year, we said we will hold lectures on all the Nobel Prizes which get announced, plus the award of Abel Prize in Mathematics, Turing Award in Computer Science, and World Food Prize. Added to it were the earlier lectures that SPSTI and the Science Academies used to do, celebrating National Science Day, National Technology Day, Teachers Day, Engineers Day. So we added all these things. And for 5 years, now we have run these activities very, very regularly. So when Modi ji gave a call for commemorating 75 years of independence as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Dharamveer ji said, we should also do something as our NGO and on behalf of the science academies. And that gave the notion, what did the scientists contribute after independence or before independence? See, political leaders fought for the independence, but the scientists drew up the plans for the development of the country. And those development plans were implemented by the scientists themselves in creating so many institutions for independent India, whether it is the UGC, whether it is the IITs, whether it is the AIMS, whether it is the statistical ISIs of India, agricultural universities of India. So all the academic initiatives which happened in independent India, we identified 19 of them. So over a 75-week period, we held 19 public lectures. So that was, we ended on August of 2022. And then next year he said, we should do something in the next 25 years, which he designated at the Amrit call. So what can we contribute it? So we invited the directors from institutions in our regions to articulate the vision of these institutions for India at 100 in 2047. So we ran that series. So that was the next series that we ran. Then last year, now these visions have to be implemented by people working in these institutions. So we started another series last year that is invited the decorated scientists from our region to come and talk to the community as to what makes them excited about their work and how their work could be relevant for the society. So these three series are, this last series is continuing, but adding to it is this new series on behalf of NASI, Chandigarh chapter, SPSTI, and Amity University. So Professor Kohli, like Professor Pasi, signed 2 MOUs. MOU between Amity and SPSTI, and MOU between Amity and NASI. So it is mixing up all these MOUs, adding to it the Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, this thing, and also young associates of the Bangalore Academy, plus the young associates of the Engineering Academy. So we are now all around one platform. And Dharamveerji wanted these things to happen in a hybrid mode. So that is how we are having today's lecture. You are all listening to it, but this lecture is being webcast live and it will be available on the SPSTI site forever for anyone else who has missed listening to it today. So information on it goes to all the fellows of all the academies in India. The Professor Pasin maintains a mailing list, not only the fellows of the NASI, but added to it are fellows of all the other science academies in our region. So these are available to the civic society, this is available to the science leaders, and so on and so forth. So I'm indeed very happy that we are starting this series today, and I have promised to be present in every lecture of this series, at least for next 12 months. And there is no reason why we cannot continue this series ad infinitum. They are of the order of 2,000 fellows of all the science academies in India. So if you take it that about 2/3 of them are active, so out of that 2,000, some 1,200 must be active. If these 1,200 fellows of the academy, if people give only one lecture in 4 years, okay, so we still have 300 people whom we can reach out to. So 12 lectures a year, 300 people are easily available to us. There is no reason why this activity this should go on ad infinitum. It's just the audience has to be interested. And in an institution like Amity University, where young people join every year and graduate every year, there will be continuous audience always available. And online lecture should become a defining aspect of reaching out to the society on behalf of Amity, Science Academies, and the Chandigarh Region Innovation and Knowledge Cluster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Grover. We have with us Professor K.K. Bhasin, an eminent chemist and a NASI Platinum Jubilee Fellow and Professor Emeritus at Punjab University. He is a fellow of leading national science academies and serves as the secretary of the Chandigarh chapter of NASI. I would request Professor Bhasin to formally introduce our speaker, Professor K.K. Talwar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Vishal. Good afternoon and warm greetings to you all. Honorable Vice Chancellor, learned colleagues, research fellows, students, ladies and gentlemen. It's my proud privilege in extending a very warm welcome to you all at the very first invited talk of the series on popular science lecture by eminent scientists, industrialists, and technologists. These lectures are being organized by Amity University Punjab, Mohali, under the Science Society program of the National Academy of Sciences, India, Prayagraj, in collaboration with the Chandigarh chapter of NASI and the Society for the Promotion of Science and Technology in India, SPSTI. I take this distinct and rare opportunity in introducing a highly accomplished and profoundly decorated cardiologist of the country, Padam Bhushan awardee Dr. Keval Krishan Talwar, who is presently Chairman of Cardiac Sciences at Pushpavati Singhania Multi-Speciality Hospital and Research Institute at New Delhi. Dr. Talwar was born in 1946 at Payal in a small town of Ludhiana. He had his earlier education in his hometown and the neighboring city of Jalandhar. He graduated in medicine MBBS from Punjab University Patiala in 1969 and continued his studies at Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research, Chandigarh, from where he obtained his MD in General Medicine 1973, DM in Cardiology in 1976, and acquired a training in electrophysiology at the University of Gothenburg, Sweden, under World Health Organization Fellowship. His career started at his alma mater, PGI, in December 1977 as a faculty member, where he worked for 3 years before moving to AIIMS, New Delhi, as an assistant professor of cardiology in 1980. He became professor in 1992 and head of the Department of Cardiology in 2002 at AIIMS. He is credited to be the prime cardiologist to have performed the first heart transplant in India in 1994. His research findings on implantation of implantable cardiovertebral defibrillator therapy in South Asia have prominently been featured in Limca Book of World Record in 1997. After serving 24 years in AIIMS, he returned to PGI in 2004 at Chandigarh as the director, professor, and head of the Department of Cardiology and stayed till his superannuation in 2011. Dr. Talwar is a renowned cardiologist and has been conferred the Honoris Causa degree of Doctor of Science by NTR University of Health Sciences, Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. Before joining PSRI Hospital in Delhi, he was chairman of cardiology department at Max Super Specialty Hospital, Skate. He is primarily credited with the introduction of cardiac CRT in India that has been featured once again in Limca Book of World Record in 2019. Dr. Talwar is a recipient of multiple honors and awards. To name a few, and the distinctly ones are Dr. PSRI Award, Aryabhat Award INSA 2012, Basanti Devi Amirchand Award ICMR 2003, Ranbaxy Research Award 1997, Lifetime Achievement Award because of his unparalleled contributions by Cardiologist Society of India. Apart from these awards, Dr. Talwar was instrumental in initiating techniques of EMB in the country and establishing its utility in some of the tropical heart muscle disease. Being the cardiologist for the first time, as I mentioned earlier, in the heart transplantation, introducing techniques of radiofrequency ablation in 1993 in India, being associated with several government initiatives and a task force on health and medical education. In addition, Dr. Talwar is former chairman, Board of Governors of the Medical Council of India, former president of National Academy of Medical Sciences, and is a distinguished fellow of the Indian National Society. INSA. His work has been documented in several state-of-the-art publications, which include 240 research articles and 270 abstracts published in various peer-reviewed medical journals of national and international repute. He has also contributed 15 book chapters in various medical texts. Sir, with this brief introduction, we will be looking forward to your talk on medical innovation research and where do we stand today. May I now request Professor Talwar to please guide.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Professor Kohli, Professor Grover, Dharmira ji, Madam Dharmira, Professor Vasim, the distinguished faculty, students. I really feel very privileged and honored to be sort of here today, particularly when you have a chance to talk to the residents or other younger people. I'm deeply grateful to Professor Grover, Professor Kohli for this opportunity. When I was coming, I was thinking of what topic I should talk. I'm a medical person, I'm a clinical person totally, and the medicine subjects are complex. But then I thought, let me, the science series, like sort of initiation, so let me talk on the medical research. What the medical research or innovations has contributed as such into the delivery of health services. And where do, I think, as our country, we stand? So I'll share with you these kind of observations. I'll try to sort of, there may be some language, medical language. I'll try to make it as simpler as possible. Before that, when Dr. Grover mentioned about this integration of different institutions and making integrating various science institutions in the city as such. I think when I was director, so there was some group here who used to have a monthly meeting. They started, and this was started by R.I. Singh, the former Chief Secretary of Punjab. He was also my neighbor. And then they will, each one will host a lunch. Dinner was avoided because then people start taking more lightly. So it was a lunch where the host will give a lunch and then we'll choose a topic and for there were journalists there kind of thing. So it was a 10, 12 people group. So he will choose a topic and talk about that. Then some discussion. So when my turn came, being a medical person, see, I'm sure they all thought that I will talk on some medical topic, on health issues. But I was impressed in Chandigarh, as a tri-city, was the number of scientific institutions in the state. Nowhere else, I compared it, I gave examples. You had a PGI here, Punjab University, it's a rich history. And these new institutions, IPER had started here, which were the first probably in the country. Then you came ISA, nanotechnology, biotechnology, you start with ISB, IIT Ropar is not very far. So that no city has such a kind of a rich institutions. You compare anywhere else. So it's a huge, it's like a Chandigarh Tri-City in knowledge hub. So I thought this should be exploited by this Tri-City. That's what I thought and tried to put on that. And that was beginning. So it was just how this happened that we must exploit this. I must say again, Dharmira ji here also, that I think that states, all these two should, even Himachal should combine this whole region for the knowledge. And I think, so coming back to the topic that I'm going to share with you, I have three subset of my presentation. First, it is how technology innovation all around, how it ideas come sometime, how it translates into the helping the humanity. And so how the healthcare has, I will mainly focus on the cardiac care. Being a cardiologist, I have so many things that have been happening around. And the second part of my will be, what are the research kind of activities of our medical institutions? Where do we stand? And then probably the way, what the way forward. If you look at the major, they say discoveries of 20th century in cardiology, and these are some of the contributions I think which have really changed our practice or healthcare in cardiology. First, ECG. I think today ECG is like a common word. But how this idea came to somebody is like, yes, there are other areas. I'll briefly take some of them. Now, if you look at the ECG, it was around 1900 or so. Then, I mean, to record the electrical activity of the heart, Professor William Einthoven is a Dutch physician. He started thinking about, and this machine was weighing around 600 pounds. 3-4 people had to operate it. And at that time, I think for recording electrical activity, it was a capillary galvanometer. I'm not a physicist. Pardon me, both Professor Grover and Professor Colley, that you have to put your one leg into the feet into the water, one hand, this. So this is how the person start working. And now, and this as I mentioned, and then there was a galvanometer. I'm sure, pardon me again, I'm not very knowledgeable on that, but this particular galvanometer knowledge science changed the whole thing. Miniaturizing the ECG and all that, and they say the city of Leiden became a place of pilgrimage for scientists to go there and see. And now if you look at, we have ECG machines like that, and we now, you can, on a smartphone, you can get ECG. You have wearable Apple Watch, people are very fancy sort of putting in, you can all the time record ECG. So this how the, initial thoughts and their further technology, how things have changed. And today, I think in medicine, you can't think of without an ECG. This is how, and so as I mentioned, Professor William Einthoven was then given a Nobel Prize in 1924. They say that when he got the prize, one of his assistants, when they vote, I tried to search for him that he must share the prize with him. Then he found that he was no more. Then he gave half of the money to his sisters, they say. So that's how, just as historical facts. Now, this is the wearable kind of ECG that we have today, like Apple Watch. Now, it's I'm sure some of you must have come across sometime patient suddenly faint. Oh, khada khada gir gaya ji. Faint ho gaya, syncope, we call it in medical knowledge. And then you have to find a cause. It's a brain issue, it's a heart issue. And this is like one of the ECG, somebody has some abnormality, but not that he has a recurrent syncope. And so if you see a patient during syncope, only you then can diagnose it, kya hua hai? What has to be done for, is a neurological issue, is a cardiac issue, but then patient doesn't tell you that I'm going to faint. So he may faint at odd places, then you may not have the medical facility. But now if you have these wearable devices, like this patient when he had a heart block. So what I mean to say that these are the way technology has helped us to grow. Now another issue I want to share with you is of defibrillator. A defibrillator is a kind of, if somebody arrests, heart becomes very fast or irregular and be shocked. And the heart may suddenly then stop and come back again. It is to resuscitate a person who had arrested. And this is one, again, thought came in science, why patient have. So this was like initially started with AC defibrillator, and that was probably was not very friendly to the health. You may cause some injuries. And then 1962, Professor Lown, he developed a direct DC defibrillator. So these are the patients who arrest. You must have seen in the hospital that somebody arrested, you resuscitate him and defibrillate him, you may be able to save the person. In 1980, then Dr. Mirosky, who, like, if you see, look at, this was the first defibrillator, which was a box-like thing. And now in our hospitals, we mostly have the one that is in up. He thought that this is available in the hospital. Suppose somebody arrested at home. By the time you take him to the hospital, he may be no more. And this is thought came to him. One of his own professor, he was in Israel, he studied there. So one of his own professor, who was his neighbor also, arrested at home. Before he shipped him to take him to the hospital, he died on the way. So he thought, if I would have a defibrillator right with me, I would have been able to save him. I mean, this thought of him stimulated him that I must work on to devise a defibrillator which can be part of the body in a way. So he then, of course, shifted from, he was in Israel, they say he was a Jew, and in Poland, his family was, so all was killed, and he's free from that too. So then, I mean, this is the thought he came to, he shifted to John Hopkins, because he knew that this kind of work he can do it there. So he found a colleague and he started working on it. The idea that you can have such a small device in the body, everybody felt ke ye to galat baat kar. Even one of his colleagues who joined him, he left him, ke no, it's not possible. Dr. Long, which I mentioned, supposed to be the father of defibrillator, he even wrote an editorial that is impossible, even unethical. But then he persisted with his thought. He was convinced that it can happen. And I think after a hard work of 11 years, 69 he started, and in 1980, he could devise a implantable kind of a defibrillator, which we implant in the body like a pacemaker. So the people who are prone to this kind of sudden issues because of the weakness of the heart, if you implant, they can be saved from this sudden death. This is how, I mean, this, you have to persist with your thoughts, you have to work. And so this is how now we have a devices which can be put like a pacemaker. These are leads which go into the heart. And the lead senses when a heart becomes irregular or try to arrest, and then senses it, and sort of there is, and then it shocks the heart to bring it back to normal. So this is one of the now a very important device to people who are prone to sudden death. And then we have further innovation. We have now automatic external defibrillator. Like it is thought that in airports, railways, stations, where there are big crowds, somebody suddenly collapses. If you have a automatic lying there, you can put it over it. He will detect the heart problem and shock it. Now we have, so I mean, how technology has helped to, I mean, we can't imagine somebody arrested, he's arrested. You can't save him. But now there is way. And I mean, we know that those people who have a very poor heart function, we go measure it by percentage, and they are prone to this kind of problem. They are primarily as a prophylaxis advise ICDs for this. I think in AIMS then, when I was there, we started this device implantation in 1993. That's the time when the endocardial lead was introduced. Earlier it was all epicardial. So I mean, this is how this kind of innovation has helped the society to handle even these kind of sick situations. Then comes the angiography issue. I am sure all of you must have heard, uska angiography hua hai, stent hua hai, hona hai. So this angiography, I mean, how the thought came. Dr. William Forsman in 1929, he was as a resident in neurology, junior person, and trying to work in the experimental lab. So they were working on frogs. In a frog, he cut the vein and put a ureter, I mean, urological catheter into that vein, and he found it goes to the heart. So he said, I mean, you can reach the heart by this way to investigate. But all his colleagues thought this is a very insane idea and told him not to do it. But he persisted in his mind that he must do it. So one day in the operation theater, when he was alone in the night, he could persuade one of his sisters to help him. He did his own cut down, opened the vein, and sister gave him the catheter. He put it into the heart, and then they wanted to do an X-ray. So they didn't want to go openly. Somebody will say, "Ye kya ho gaya?" So they covered with a sheet to him, and sister took him to the radiology lab. And what they found, that they could show the catheter has gone to the heart. And that's how cardiac catheterization started. Of course, then you could other catheters, specialized catheter, angiography. So I mean, it's a question of a person's thinking and persisting with it. So I think probably nature has given solution to everything. Only thing you have to think about it and you work for it. So then I think is the so he is a like self-experiment, first cardiac catheterization, 1929, did his venesection, put a catheter and showed that we can reach the heart for things. And he then wrote once that I felt that I had planted, because people didn't sort of encouraged him, discouraged him. He was even, there was that they may be shunted out from the department. He wrote that I felt that I had planted an apple orchard, and other men who had gathered the harvest stood at the wall laughing at me. I mean, that's how the science goes. People think about it. People sort of, so we have to be open, particularly to our, so I think this is how the catheterization started. Then other people further did more things, Dr. Kuhner, Dr. Richard, and then they got Nobel Prize, first man, another in 56. Then of course, then further thing. Now you can put catheter, you can do angiography, you can investigate. So what treatment kind of a thing? This for Dr. Daughter, he was a radiologist. You see, what there was the sometimes you see we have some these arteries in the limbs or they can be narrowed because of deposition of fatty material we call atherosclerosis. He thought, why don't you dilate it? So he created some kind of a catheter and put it and dilated it, and then it became almost looking normal. So this is one way that you can open up the diseased vessel, and that's what is today we call of angioplasty or stent. That came from that thought initial. So of course, then I think Dr. Gunjing thought of doing coronary angioplasty. He again fabricated a catheter with a balloon. And then this, if you can see that this was the first case, 1977, they showed patient had heart attack, had a narrowing very proximal main vessel, and then he put a balloon, dilated it, and became like normal. So this is how the science has grown for innovation and thoughts to help humanity. The next thing came, I think, acute heart attacks, suddenly we know that patient due to suddenly tik-tak tha. Suddenly he has collapsed and died. And it's not uncommon. We see, younger people generation now, you have seen some, the famous singer and that Shrivastava, the comedian, all these, but even the gym, they suddenly, and then, so I think we are coming across these are acute heart attacks. Now the question was what to do for them. And it was that there's a clot which becomes obstructs the vessel. If you can take out the clot, you may be able to help a patient. Otherwise, he may die. And that's how the therapy of thrombolytic therapy we call. You can have drugs. If you give that patient that drug, it can lyse the thrombus and open the vessel. So this is what came a revolution of thrombolytic therapy. And it was 1980s or so when we knew that we have now a thrombolytic therapy, acute myocardial infarction patient comes, you give this injection, he will thrombolize and he will be probably saved from this particular serious issue. So this is how, this particular therapy, then more advances occurred into that. We've got some more specific, clot-specific agents. But I'm trying to share this. Now, what was the Indian contribution to this? And that's, I think, Chandigarh has to be proud of it. Professor Sani, who was in IMTech, they start working on streptokinase. It was available, but they did their own way so they can make it affordable. I remember in 1980, it was costing around 3,000 plus. And that time, 3,000 was not a small amount. And many patients could not afford, even in AIMS, the insurance was not paying. People have to pay from their pocket. So many people could not get this kind of therapy. So he worked on it with his colleagues, and then they made a local streptokinase in 2002, and then with the other technology. So anyway, this helped to reduce the cost. the cost became 1/4 or 1/5 less than what was the cost of European streptokinase. So I think then they also started working on clot specific. I think that day when Mrs. Sani mentioned about stroke, because this medicine can also be used for heart stroke as well as brain stroke. So I think this is what is going. I hope that this soon comes, and I think we must salute Dr. Sani for this translational immunization, which has helped this society and many lives, not in India, all developing nation, poor people, countries, they start using this particular thrombolytic therapy. So we salute him, salute his soul. Now, next issue, you see how science grows. We know about the ECG. There is some kind of a, I think because it's very difficult for more, but then came ECG have electrical activity. What is there in the heart? Because you sometimes develop arrhythmias, some people get fast palpitation, fast rates kind of thing. So this helps that if you put a catheter into the heart, you can probably have more precise knowledge of electrical activity of the heart. I mean, this made us to look at arrhythmias, and then suddenly one day, Dr. Gonzalez was working in his lab. He put this catheter into a animal for experiment, for studying electrical activity. By mistake, this catheter got connected to the defibrillator, which I talked about. And when he gave a shock, suddenly patient developed a heart block. So he said कि ये तो अगर catheter से हम heart block, we can destroy a tissue in the heart. And that led to the beginning of that we can have energy. Defibrillator is electric shock. We have radio frequency energy like a cautery. That now what people have, we put all kind of catheter in the heart, find out the electrical abnormality, the origin of arrhythmia, the focus where it is, and by a catheter you can deliver the RF energy and cure a patient. So this is something which, I mean, how things go, and by it was only accident that he connected by mistake the catheter to a defibrillator, and that gave him the idea. So of course now we do routinely patients who come with palpitation, we map their sort of activity inside, and then we use this therapy and cure them from this kind of problem. So this is how science has been growing. Now next I come to another area, that is the artificial heart. Now, transplant is one option. Other is that people transplant is only if you get a heart. It's only it's nothing you, if somebody has a brain death, you can get a heart. Otherwise, so there are many people who are so sick and they don't get a heart because, I mean, they're not available as such. So the concept came, why not have an artificial heart? Still, we don't have an ideal artificial heart, but what we have is a kind of a device which can support one of the main ventricle. You implant into that and it will support the ventricle for some years. You can then take him for transplant. So this was the left assist device, which again was idea came in around 62, and I think then we have now one is missed. So this was one of our patient 98 that was explanted inside the heart. And these are the battery, it had to be charged. And this was then another patient, is another model. Gradually, this device has become more smaller than before. This is just a CT angiography to show this is the device. This is kind of going to one of the aorta, main vessel. This from the ventricle, it is taking out. So, I mean, this is how innovation has been happening. Now, coming before transplant, the main transplant issue has been that when you transplant a heart, it can get rejected. You need to have medication to prevent that rejection, but you also have to have technique to diagnose rejection. And that was the biopsy issue. So in AIMS, we started this taking biopsy in 1986 or so, before our transplant program. So we developed the experience on this before. We knew that if you have to start a transplant, we must have the experience in this. This is the kind of, we have catheters like this is a bioptome, which is opened into the heart and you can punch out for a biopsy. So like that, this is in the other ventricle. So it was in 1967 that one first heart transplant done by Christian Bernard in South Africa. And I think this was a huge kind of event. And this was the first transplant done in AIMS. I was not the transplant surgeon. I'm a cardiologist. So I was assisting, I was involved as an initiation on the program. Not that I have done a transplant, sir. So I'm a cardiologist, but this was the first patient, 2000. We had treated him for a few years. We kept him in the ward till we get the right heart for him. And this was Prasbin Gopal, of course, was our cardiac surgeon. And this patient lived for another 15 years. And I'd like to show there are a few more patients for the transplant. And this girl was transplanted in 2000. She was the daughter of a senior police officer from Madhya Pradesh, brought to us in a very advanced heart failure stage. And she had just married a year back, and she was virtually, so she was shifted from Madhya Pradesh, Indore to Delhi AIMS. And so we knew that medication will not help her, and transplant is the answer. That time we had started doing it. Luckily, I think during her stay, we got the heart. Now this girl is 24 years old post-transplant. So it's the longest transplant that I think in India we have. And now you look at, I think last year she went for the sports, and she's actively sort of, so this is how the life can change. Now that was my little first part of just sharing with you how in cardiology things have changed and helped us to help the human being. Now let us look at the medical research that हमारे medical institutions ने क्या, what have we contributed? Have we done something? What have we have done? Now, if you look at the publication, this I think came in 2016. I think 3-4 institutions of the country were publishing paper, which was quite comparable to the best in the world. I mean, you can say AIMS, PGI, CMC Vellore, Sanjay Gandhi also. So these few institutions were doing well as far as the publication goes. These are the kind of number of publication. But what I want to emphasize that, we'll try to look at the how they are cited, the research that we are doing, how it is recognized as cited. And we found that there are very few papers even who were cited more than 100 times. Mostly were like less than 10 or maybe 1/3, probably 1/4, no citation at all. We looked at the 20 top papers of these institutions and found that more than 80% of the papers had first or the corresponding author from outside. So it was when the faculty was working in UK, USA, and that work was published, probably they appeared. So what I mean that even our research publication quality, we need to little look at, and this is we published this kind of medical research in India, Time to Act. This was qualitative analysis. This was when I was in PGI, my colleague Samir Malhotra in pharmacology, he helped me. So we tried to collect this data. Even last 5 years, AIMS PGI publication number is okay, but I think the main thing is the quality of it. So I'll say medical education has become, one of my colleagues in AIMS, he wrote this, right? And I must say that more than 50% of the colleges don't publish paper. Medical college, very few. So he wrote medical education has become a business, and hence research is booked as a non-profitable activity, looked as non-profitable activity and outsourcing research. We feel sad about it, but that's what is our Honorable Prime Minister, he went for 42nd convocation of AIMS, New Delhi, and he also mentioned India is lagging behind in the field of research. It's important to promote environment of research in major medical institutions. I'm sure it is true of other science institutions also, but I'm limiting myself to medicine. But I like to also share with you a few good achievements that the country can boast of. Professor Ramalingam Swami, who was the director at AIMS and also director at ICMR. Now this iodized salt that we get, that was all their contribution. That they found in hilly areas, deficiency of iodine, lot of thyroid issues. And then this kind of knowledge came. This changed the sort of outlook, and so they advised all this. So now we see very little of those kind of things. This is another one, Dr. Shambhu Nath Dey. He worked on cholera. And I like to read this. In 1915, they was the first to demonstrate that cholera bacteria secretes enterotoxin. This discovery eventually promoted research to find a treatment and aimed directly at neutralizing cholera enterotoxin. Anyway, while initially unrecognized, today is considered a milestone in the history of cholera research. Then Dr. Gary Field, founder editor of Science Citation, he mentioned about him, and then Indian scientists had not given importance to him, not recognized his work. He published in Nature. So they say this observation has now served as the basis of currently the most important life-saving recommendation in diarrhea, use of oral rehydration therapy. But Shamunath, initially Indian scientists, media ignored his contribution. It's only after Dr. Garfield's observation of his original work, then we started praising him, raising the sky. So I think this is also, and I'm happy that President, our Honorable Prime Minister mentioned in one of the meetings as such. Inaugural science conclave said was that unlike in Western countries, the work of Indian scientists was not given the recognition in the past in the country. We must recognize our people. Sometimes so this is how Dr. Amuna's history, and then polio, pulse polio. This was an idea came from Belor, Dr. Jacob John's work. And of course, few of our scientists who went abroad and got more Nobel in medicine, Dr. Khurana, and then Dr. Ramakrishnan. So I think we have, so if we have too little, then Dr. Pentel was DG ICMR. He has a lot of good work on receptors, JACE receptors, pulmonary receptors. And though, of course, most of his work was done when he was in UK. Then this is another contribution by Professor Beliathan, who was director of Chitra Institution, heart valve. We import heart valves, they're very expensive. So biomedical being was made as part of the institution that there. And so he worked on it and they created a Indian heart valve, which is far cheaper than the imported ones. And Dr. Beliathan also passed away about a month back. And then Kalam Raju stand, Binu stand, and Kalam Sahab joined with the cardiologists to even make initiate stents. These are some of the drugs that I think we can say that contributed by Indian people. This is the anti-hypertensive drug. So what I'm trying to now say that we have a very few high impact research as far as we can consider for our medical institutions. Drug devices also insignificant. I mean, it's all that I think they have made, somebody has made bell, we went on to making bell, stand B, but not that we have originally thought of something and recreating it. Some of the scientists work abroad, won laurels, Nobel Prize even, show that we are capable as far as intellectual skills are concerned, but lack infrastructure, inadequate environment, and favor research. And I must say that younger people, that the country must also, we have to develop, even respect a failure in research. Research is not that you may work for, some of you who are working in science may realize you may do something for years and you not get anything out of it. But that doesn't mean a failure. That means you have worked on a particular idea. So the way forward, for every effect, there's a root cause. Find and address the root cause rather than try to fix the effect. So I think that's what in medicine we try to feel. I think we need a collaboration between basic scientists and clinicians. That is, I think, one area which I thought if we integrate people, we have to sit together. That's why how the translation medicine comes. So this is an area which I think all the major funding agency, ICMR, and they should also try to create platform where the basic scientists and the clinical people can sit together. So we have very few interaction programs as yet. So the top medical institution, there should be audit of research, collaboration within the and outside the country, public-private models, qualitative improvement in PhD programs, and peripheral medical college where nothing is being done on the research angle. We need to sort of the ICMR basic science institution to integrate with them. So there are ways we can promote good ideas, but we must encourage people. And this is, I think, 2015 I wrote. It's for the press. Will India ever get Nobel for medicine? This is around time when Chinese got the Nobel in medicine. And the Chinese who got the medicine, this was for malaria, anti-malaria drug, because malaria was rampant. And he was asked by the top man in the China, can you find something? And from the Chinese herbal drug, they worked on it and they found the artemisinin, which is now a drug which is slash malaria, helped the humanity, and he got Nobel Prize for that. I am told by, sir, you are from IIT Kanpur. I am told that in Kanpur that time, Dr. Satyamurthy told me that they were aware of this chemicals molecule. And I think Dr. Mehta was there. I mean, there is nobody further. So this is how the science can grow. And our Honorable Prime Minister again hailed importance of research by announcing in one of the meetings sometime back now that Jai Anusandhan, adding to our mantra Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Vigyan, and now Jai Anusandhan. So I think we need to promote research if we have to create new things. I mean, to help humanity. So I again wrote in the Tribune some time back, it is time we aimed for a Nobel in medicine. And Professor Kalam, when he came for our convocation in PGI, so I think I like to share his statement. With our resources and the money we spend, we could easily accomplish 3 times what we do in half the time we normally take, if we were to operate in mission mode and with a vision for the nation. Thank you so much for all of you for the patience.
Now is the time we can have few questions from the audience. Thank you, Professor Talwar, for an exciting and insightful lecture. We can now have the questions. There are no more questions from the audience. So I would now like to request Professor Kohli to felicitate Professor Talwar with a token of appreciation. It's like a 5:15 to the bus. Everyone, please be seated. We'll take 2-3 more minutes and then we'll wrap up the event. Please be seated, everyone. So it's my honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of the organizing committee, I express my sincere gratitude to Professor K.K. Talwar for taking time out of his busy schedule for a day's trip from New Delhi to Mohali to deliver the inaugural lecture of the Popular Science series. Professor Talwar, your talk on medical innovation and research was indeed exciting, and I'm sure that the entire audience has gotten deep insights from your lecture. Thank you, Professor Talwar. My sincere thanks to Professor R.K. Kohli, Vice Chancellor, Amity University Punjab, for his vision, encouragement, and support. He was personally involved in planning every aspect of today's lecture. Thank you, Professor Kohli, for being our driving force. My heartfelt thanks to Professor Arun Grover for his constant guidance and motivation. It is always a pleasure to have you with us, and we sincerely look forward to your involvement with us for future events also. I thank Professor K.K. Bhasin for his commitment to organizing this popular science lecture series and reaching out to the community in the region for promotion of science. My deepest regards to Mr. Dharamveer, President SPSTI, and Professor K.R. Dharamveer, member SPSTI, for their support in organizing this event. My sincere thanks to the members of Chandigarh chapter of NASI, Professor K.N. Pathak, Dr. Dinesh, Professor Desi Batish from Punjab University, and Dr. Krishnendu Gangopadhyay from ISER Mohali for taking time out from their busy schedule to visit Amity University for meetings and to plan this lecture series. My gratitude to Professor Chandradeep Tandon, Dean Faculty of Sciences and co-principal investigator on this grant for his guidance and support. Professor Tandon has been actively associated with this event from its very inception. Thank you, Professor Shivali Dhingra, Dean Faculty of Management, and Dr. Bindu Chaudhary for your involvement in planning this lecture series. Organizing an event like this requires close cooperation from faculty colleagues, administrative staff, and the students. I would like to thank my faculty colleagues, Dr. Sandeep Sharma, Dr. Saurabh Sharma, and Dr. Krishna Rai for their help in organizing today's event. I thank Colonel Gotra, Director Administration and Operation, Mr. Yashveer, and their team for providing all the logistic support, Mr. Rahul Chawla, Mr. Ashok Sharma, Mr. Prateek Varna, and their IT team for IT support, Ms. Vaishali Panda, and the events and marketing team for their help in promotion of this event. Thanks are due to Mr. Mahipal Sharma and his team from SPSTI for their help in the live broadcast of this event. This event would have not been possible without the active support from many student volunteers. I thank Sharon, Prathamesh, Shreya Bhadwal, Abhilasha Chandel, Aditi Kondal, Mehak, Riya Bansal, Shrishti Singh, Shaurya Thakur, and Kashika for their help in managing stage and the seating in the auditorium. Thanks are due to NASI Prayagraj for funding support. Thank you all for being a part of today's event. I would also like to take this opportunity to announce that the next lecture in this series will be delivered by Professor Poonananda Gupta Sharma from ISER Mohali on October 3rd. The details of the lectures will be circulated soon. Thank you all once again, and I wish you a great evening ahead. I would now request everyone to please stand for the national anthem.